Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the SHOZY P10 Midori. This is the latest IM from SHOZY. One of two of the latest IMs from SHOZY. And its differentiating factor, it's the fact that it uses a combination DD planar driver. In what you could, you can't really consider it a single DD, but it's a single driver where the planar section and the dynamic driver section have been mounted coaxially. We've seen that sort of application in something like the Rinko from C Audio, which was launched last year. Anyway, this is the box. Okay, it's as simple as you can possibly imagine. Okay, this is an IM. It costs $109, so I guess I'll leave that to your discretion if you think this is a presentation for $109 IM. Then again, it is SHOZY, and SHOZY are known for doing things in a very different manner. Inside of that box, you get this case, which is a nice case. It's got a, the logo is embossed, and it does look nice. The case is very nice. We've seen it before. I mean, I've got here the 1.1, and it's exactly the same case. Inside, you open it. It's got a decent selection of tips. The tips some of the tips are very similar to the GVP 07 tips. Okay, a few more there. So it's got a decent selection of tips. Really nothing to be complaining about in the tip department. And then the cable. The cable is a little bit on the disappointing side again, because we are talking about a $109 IM. This particular unit, I actually got it from Angel Ear store on AliExpress, and I will be honest, I was expecting a little bit of a better cable. This is a price tag that beckons a little bit of a better finish. But anyway, it is what it is. As for the P10, the P10 is a collaboration, basically, that involved SHOZY and a brand that is known as Cook, K-O-O-K, and they are responsible for they are a studio, basically. So they kind of collaborated to bring us the P10, and as I said, and I was saying earlier, the P10 is basically a composite driver, a DD and a planar, and let's say that the result was interesting. The shell is a very nicely designed shell. I mean, it's nothing that we haven't really seen. We've seen this sort of shell before in terms of its shape and overall finish. It's resin. It kind of has the overall, the feel of the shell is very much like a QE's Cadenza, like the Pula PA01. So it's not unique in that aspect. What is unique on the shell is these vents here that you can see, these three holes, okay, and that is part of a intricate venting system that apparently they've used inside to, do away with unwanted resonances and improve performance. They mention even that these vents not only do provide a more natural tuning, but also improve transient response, and with regards to the transient response and resolution, I will say that the P10 does score high marks. Yes, it is very good in that aspect. But when they mention things like extending the sub bass and effortless treble extension, I'm not sure I agree with that interpretation of things. When I show you the graphs in a second, you'll understand what I mean. Anyway, fit is perfect. There's nothing wrong with the fit. It fits beautifully. Isolates nicely once you've chosen the right tip. So it's a nicely built IM. What you would expect for $100 IM. It's nicely built, but of course, being priced at $100, you really need to bring your A game to the table, and you really need to bring something very special and unique, so that it can have a chance of standing out. Having said that, what is then the sound of the P10 like? The P10 is very neutral in the bass, very neutral in the bass. There's no emphasis in the bass. However, its neutrality is actually a little bit deceiving because there's a lot more bass energy than what you would think. It's very much like the neutrality that you have here on the P10 is something very similar to the neutrality, for example, that you get on the T2 MK2. All right. But while in the MK2 from 10 HiFi, that bass is neutral, but it's somewhat thin also because of the energy that is found in the upper registers. Over here, the bass is not as thin, although we still also have loads of energy in the mids, upper mids, and treble, loads of energy. So in terms of the bass, I would say that the bass is actually not bad. It's actually fine. At least it didn't bug me. I will be attempting to at least try and tame the upper registers a little bit, at least to my liking, to see if I can extract a little bit more performance out of it. But anyway, it's in the upper registers, especially in the upper mids and treble, where things just get a little bit out of what I personally like myself. I'm sure that there will be people that will enjoy its very forward presentation, that will enjoy the very high energy presentation that it has. I'm sure female vocals or people that are that appreciate a really clean and detailed presentation of female vocals and stuff which has a lot of instruments and so on and so forth will appreciate, twinklies and sparklies and so on, will appreciate this. But I think that the P10 will still be very much a niche product, something that will be tailored for a specific group of people and not really a mainstream product that will please many. Having said all of this, and by no means do I want to be unfair or unjust to the P10, the P10 just doesn't do it for me in terms of sound. That's it. It just doesn't, as it is, at least in this state. Maybe perhaps once I've played around a little bit with the tuning of the nozzle, I will be able to make it a little bit more satisfying. And to that extent, when I compare it to at least this small selection here, and I'll explain why I have this small selection, you maybe will understand. Compared to the T2, the Mark II is no king, or not really king, that's not the right word, no real success, let's put it that way, rather. It had big shoes to fill with regards to its previous brothers in the T2 range, and in my opinion it didn't do it, and I think it was just basically down to the fact that the tuning was trying to emulate the tuning of the original T2, which the original T2 actually wasn't bad, but the problem was that they overemphasized the mids, upper mids, and treble here, and so it made this come across as a very at lower volumes, okay, acceptable, nice, detailed, and so on and so forth. But the moment you put up the volume a little bit on this thing, it's just too much, and the T2 ultimately loses in that aspect. The P10 compared to the T2, at least it does scale better. At least it does have more ability to be played loud and still maintain a certain amount of still maintain, let's say, an acceptable temperament, but it doesn't have the same sort of extension up top as this. To a certain extent, thank God it doesn't, because otherwise then it would just be unbearable. So although it's using a planar driver and you would expect to have, as they mentioned, extended highs and so on and so forth, the highs are extended, but they are somewhat limited in my opinion. There's not a lot of information past 10K, or at least perceivable information past 10K. Not that you pick up on it, but you understand. You get that feel of those twinklies and sparklies. Compared to the Rinko also uses a similar driver technology, and they are complete polar opposites. Again, the Rinko doesn't have the amount of treble that was said to be had, because it was using a planar driver and blah 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 blah. No, what it does have is an acceptable bass. Yes, again, not the monstrous amounts of bass like its creator was also alluding to, that it rattles your brain and your tooth fillings come out and so on and so forth. No, none of that. It's got good bass. I'm not going to deny that it has good bass. It's got good bass, but it's not a real, it's not a resolute bass. It's not a bass that's got a lot of speed and it's got a lot of detail. It's got weight. It's got, it's fun. It's decently engaging, but it's definitely not the best bass that you can find at this price and even lower. Okay, there are IEMs at lower price that offer much better bass, not only in terms of overall quantity but quality. Definitely compared to the SHOZY, they are very different. I would say that if I'm going to choose a volume level here, which is not going to be excessive, I would say that the SHOZY will definitely be better in terms of overall detail. It will show female vocals and male vocals in a more interesting manner than the Rinko. If I'm now looking at more the bass only, then the Rinko definitely is the winner. But ultimately, they kind of just basically trade blows between each other, because the presentations that they have are very different. It's like comparing a sports car to an SUV, and now you decide which one is going to be the sports car and which one is going to be the SUV. So that's it. Compared to the SHOZY, the 1.1 form, which is a 1+1 hybrid. Well, first of all, as you can see, the shell is again very similar to the shell of the P10, very similar kind of quality of finish and so on and so forth. The SHOZY, the form, the 1.1, has been it's been around for many years now, since 2020 if I'm not mistaken. And out of the stuff that I've tried from SHOZY, and fair enough, I haven't tried out the world in terms of IEMs from SHOZY. Out of the IEMs that I've tried from SHOZY, I still feel it's the one that satisfies my personal taste the best. I used to have a 1.4, but that unit unfortunately wasn't 100%, so I ended up sending it back. But the 1.1, initially it was an IM that cost around $60. It's a little bit more expensive now, and it is a really nice sounding IM. Even by today's standards of 1+1s, I still think that it's a nice sounding IM, and compared to the P10, there's absolutely no comparison. It might lose slightly in terms of resolution in certain songs to the P10. The P10 might be just slightly more quick in its transient response and so on and so forth, but overall the engagement that you get from the 1.1 compared to the P10 is totally different, and the 1.1 is a better IM. Besides this very small comparison here, we must keep in mind that the P10, obviously, not only is it a niche product, but it is a product that will be competing against things like the SimGot EA500 and the EA500 LM. It's going to be competing against things like the Wizard HE10. It's going to be competing against even the Olina, and a number of other IEMs priced at around $100. I mean, at $129, you've got the Phoenix Call from Celeste. At $80-something, you've got now the Bluetooth Beast, also from Celeste. So when you start comparing the other IEMs that are available at this price point, that's where things get a little bit complicated to justify this very exclusive market that it's trying to focus. I believe that there are a few other IEMs that will also satisfy that group of people that will probably appreciate this, while being still more versatile at the end of the day. But anyway, it is what it is. SHOZY decided to do things this way, and I guess we just have to accept it. And you like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. It's as simple as that. Anyway, as I was saying, and just to quickly do a recap, the bass here on the SHOZY is not bad. The mids and upper mids and treble, I think it's where the problem is. Not only is it a little bit jaggedy and all over the place and up and down and so on and so forth, and okay, fair enough, you could argue graphs on or graphs, and what you listen to is what you listen to. That's very true. I agree and concur with that statement. However, in this particular case, you look at the graph and then you listen, and they very much match each other. It is not a presentation which I would say at least for me, is ideal. And you know, there are songs that I listened to that were absolutely fantastic. It sounded really, really good. I was actually quite impressed. But there were more songs that I was left a little bit, you know, okay. Also, the one thing I will definitely say about the P10 is you choose your source carefully. If you're going to choose a brighter sounding source or something which is something that usually you encounter in the ESS powered dongles and so on and so forth, this is going to maybe not be the ideal synergy. I would suggest something maybe using, you know, the 41131, the 43131 or 198, the Cirrus Logic chips, or maybe even the AKMs. That's what I would personally suggest. Anyway, guys, I hope I was able to give a little bit of an overview here on the P10. As I said, I guess you could call it a valid attempt, but not one that I think is worthwhile really going out there and spending the money on. I would suggest, as I always do, if you have the opportunity to listen to it, see if it ticks enough boxes for you guys, and then decide whether or not to get it. All right, I'll show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for the SHOZY P10. This is the graph of the SHOZY P10, and as you can see, not exactly the most appealing of graphs. Very neutral-ish base with a very slow, mellow roll-off. Excuse me. Then it's got this very early pin again, very abrupt. I mean, we've got roughly 12 dBs of gain here, peaking at 2K, then drops, then another peak, then not exactly nice. Okay. However, and it's to its favor, and not trying to be just critiquing it, it actually doesn't sound as bad as what the graph looks. It does have a nice appealing bass. It's got, you know, clean, it's got good weight, decent weight, and I mean, when you take it and you compare it with something like, for example, the 10 HiFi, the T2 Mark II, which I've just put up, you notice that the P10 definitely does have a little bit more engagement, a little bit more fun. It's not as detailed as you would think, you know, especially considering it's a planar driver and so on and so forth. And the T2 just absolutely annihilates it in terms of overall treble and everything. But the truth is, I was expecting more. Let's put it that way. Again, once more, and to its favor, it does scale better than the T2. The T2 at low volumes, it's actually quite interesting. It's got a nice, easily detailed listen. It's an interesting listen, but once you push the volume, the T2 becomes very over energetic. While the P10 does scale better. The P10 does keep its composure. All right, compared to the Rinko, definitely yes, the Rinko does have more bass quantity. The quality, I would say it's debatable. The quality of the bass of the P10 is actually not bad. It's a thinner sounding bass, fair enough, but it's got nice. It's quick. It's resolving. It's a decent bass. The bass of the P10 is decent. The problem with the P10 is the mids, upper mids, and treble. And then, you know, although by looking at the Rinko's graph, you would think, oh, there's loads of detail up top, mids, and this and that. No. The Rinko is also a relatively dark sounding IEM. And it's just, look, they are just very much polar opposites, and that trade blows, like I said earlier. You know, there are occasions where the P10 comes out on top. There are occasions where the Rinko comes out on top. So it ultimately depends on what is it that you are looking for. But if I have to look at it in a perspective of which one will probably be the most pleasing for a wider variety of people, the Rinko will probably take that one. And also the Rinko is cheaper. So, and then, so I've shown you the Rinko. I've shown you the Rinko. I've shown you, oh yes, need to show you the SHOZY, the 1.1. SHOZY 1.1. There we go. The SHOZY 1.1, I think it's the better IM compared to the P10, and for me at least, out of this small selection, that I made, yeah, it is the most entertaining IM. The bass is not as prominent and as monstrous as the graph would lead you to believe. It isn't. It's way more balanced with mids, upper mids, and treble than what you would think by here. And the graph of the SHOZY by itself actually is an interesting graph. It kind of reminds me a lot of the ISN Neo 1. I've just put up the Neo 1 just for you guys to see. The Neo 1 has got also the same sort of vibe of sound. A bit more extension past 10k, a bit more detail up top there, and considering it's just a single DD as opposed to a 1+1 of the SHOZY, that's actually quite commendable. But overall, what I'm basically trying to say is the SHOZY 1.1, for those that don't know it, it's got a sound which is very reminiscent of the Neo 1. Okay, and that's it, guys. I mean, like I said, the P10, I guess you can say it's a valid attempt. I mean, SHOZY always makes different things. They do a different tuning, but I don't know. I think this is just way too niche, way too specific to be a success, and then, like I mentioned earlier, you got so many other IEMs at around the same price and slightly cheaper that will do what the SHOZY can do, which is be very resolving and so on and so forth, and still do more, and still be cheaper. So you question whether or not the SHOZY makes sense. I don't think I don't think the P10 has done enough to really stand out and tick the right boxes in the quantity that is needed to be competitive. All right. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe. If there's any questions that you want me to answer, please feel free to do so, and I'll do my best to answer as always. Okay. You take care now. Bye bye.